working on Excel multi-project 1. Currently we're working on the first project, Scuba. The first task asks us to go ahead and begin on the Sheet 1 tab. You want to make sure that you pay attention and make sure that you are doing the steps on the correct sheet. And it tells us to go to A16. So we'll go ahead and scroll down. We'll put our cursor on A16. And it's telling us to go ahead and import a list from the comma delimited source of more toys. Now, if you're just thinking quick, you might think insert, but we actually want to be on the data tab at the top. And over here, get external data group. And we're going to do from text. We'll find our GMetrix folder right here. And that file is listed here. So we'll go ahead and click that, double click or click OK. It tells us that it's delimited, so we'll click that. We'll click next. And here we need to uncheck tab and check comma because it tells us that it's comma. And then it says accept all other defaults, but if you're not sure, click next, and it's just having you format the data. We can go ahead and click finish. And here it's just verifying where we want to place that data. So we'll go ahead and click OK. Notice it went ahead and it placed that data for us. We can click mark completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and change the color of the worksheet tab to blue, accent 2, darker 25%. So we have that selected already, but what we need to do is right click on sheet 1, and we're going to go ahead and do tab color, and we're going to find the accent 2, that's turquoise, so it's this one right here. If you're not sure, hover, blue accent 2, darker 25%. We'll click that. We finish that task, we can click mark completed. Task 3 asks us to go to the new inventory worksheet. So we'll go ahead and click that right here. And it tells us to go ahead and copy that data. So I will select all of the contents here, and I'm going to hit Control C, but you can also go to the Home tab and use the copy function up here. And then it tells us to go to the boats sheet, and beginning in A6, it tells us to place this data in the table here. So I'm going to hit Control V, but again on the Home tab, you can just click paste. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. Task 4 asks us to go ahead and reorder the sheet so that boats is first. So this is simple. We just need to click and drag that over. You see that little down triangle. We can let go. And now boats is first in that order. We'll click mark completed. And task 5 asks us to go ahead and hide the new inventory worksheet. And all we need to do is on the sheet, go ahead and right click, new inventory, and click hide. We can click mark completed. We are working on Excel multi-project 1. Currently we're on project 2, fishing supplies. The first task asks us to go ahead and go to the tackle worksheet. So we'll click the tackle worksheet. And it says that we're going to join cells A1 to E1. So we'll go ahead and select A1 all the way to E1. Now, this one's a little bit tricky. If you're not thinking, you'll just automatically click merge and center, but that's not what this step wants you to do. It wants you to click this little drop down box and click merge across. Click mark completed. Task 2 asks us to go to the carriers and coolers worksheet. And it says that we need to link cells C10, so we'll find C10 to C12. And then we're going to go ahead and create a hyperlink to the tackle worksheet, and specifically A4. So we'll click on the insert tab up here, and we'll click hyperlink. And we want to place in this document, we'll click the tackle, and we want to change A1 to A4. We'll click OK. We'll click mark completed. Task 3 asks us to stay on this worksheet, and we're going to apply the 3 flags icon set to the inventory column. So we're going to go ahead and select all of the numbers in that column. And we're back on the Home tab, and the Styles group conditional formatting. It says it's an icon set, so we'll go ahead and put our cursor here, and we're looking for the 3 flags. So we'll go ahead and, if you're not sure, hover, but we'll go ahead and select that. We'll click mark completed. Task 4 asks us to go ahead and on this same worksheet, we're going to change the data range in this chart here. So we're going to go to the design tab at the top. Because we selected this chart, we get special options here. So chart tools, design, and we're going to click select data. And what it's having us do is it wants us to select more than just what this range is. So we'll go ahead and we'll click it, and it says select all of the data. So we'll click and drag down. We'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. And task 5 asks us to go ahead and copy this worksheet that we're working on and put it in a brand new workbook. And we're going to make a copy of it, and then we're going to save that file separate. So the first thing we need to do is to go ahead and right click on carriers and coolers, and we're going to go ahead and click move or copy. We're actually going to do both. The first thing we want to do is we're making a copy, so we want to check that box. If we don't, it will move that worksheet and it will take it out of this one and it'll put it in the new one. So we've clicked create a copy, and then from here we're going to click new book. We'll click OK. And what it does is it opens this up in a brand new workbook. Now it tells us that we need to go ahead and save this file. So we'll click File, Save As, and we want to click this PC, and we'll click GMetrix templates. If not, you can go to My Documents and map it there. And from here, we need to go ahead and type the file name. Now, notice that I'm typing in capital letters. If you misspell it, like I almost typed reports, it'll mark it wrong. So we want to go ahead and do that, click Save. And then the final step tells us to go ahead and close this workbook before we proceed. So we'll close out of that. We'll click Mark Completed. We are working on Excel multi-project 1. Currently we're on project 3, ice cream. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and replace all the occurrence of Choco with chocolate. And the key word here that you want to see is workbook. So we're on the home tab. We're going to click the find and select up here at the top, and we're going to click replace. Now we need to click the options drop down here, because you see right here it says sheet, but we want workbook. We want to replace everything in this entire file. So we'll go ahead and we'll type in Choco, and we'll put in chocolate, and we'll click replace all. Now watch over here, it will change this, and it's done that through the entire workbook. So we've gone ahead, we'll click close now, we'll click Mark Completed, and we'll move on to task 2. It tells us to stay on the cost worksheet, and it's going to tell us to repeat the rows containing the company logo and the column headings. So we have the logo up here, and this is our column headings. So we're going to go to page layout, and there are a few ways to go ahead and do this. But from the page layout, I'm going to go to page setup, and I'm going to open up the dialog box, and then I'm going to go to sheet here. And then right here it says rows to repeat at the top. We'll go ahead and click that, and we'll select 1, 2, and 3, rows 1, 2, and 3. And we'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 asks us to go ahead and go to the profits worksheet. So we'll go ahead and do that, and it's going to tell us to insert a formula that displays the number of sales greater than 250. Now, so we need to go ahead and go to B28 where it tells us to put our cursor. Now, I want you to be cautious of this on this project and even on the certification test. Please do not hand key in any formulas. I encourage you to use the function builder right here. You can also do that from here, but do not start a formula manually, because you might not put quotation marks in. There's a lot that you can miss with commas. So just for your safety, click the insert function button. And it does not tell us which formula to use. It expects you to know that we need to use the count if. So it's here on a recently used function, but up here we can type that count if, and we can click go, and it's going to pull up other formulas that are very similar to that. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. It tells us to select our range, which is sales. So let's go ahead and go back into the top so we can see our column headings, and we're going to go ahead and select all of the numbers in sales. And we can let go, and it's going to ask us what the criteria is, and it's the sales that are greater than 250. So we'll go ahead and put the greater than symbol, 250. We'll click OK, and notice that it populates with 9. So 9 of those sales are greater than 250. We'll click Mark Completed, and we're going to task 4. It tells us to modify the chart over here on the profits worksheet and change it so that we flip the horizontal axis. So what we need to do is we're going to select this chart. Anytime you select a chart like this in Excel, you're going to go ahead and get special tabs at the top. Chart tools, we're going to go to the design tab, and this one's pretty simple. We're just going to click switch row column, and notice how the data changed and it just flipped it. It's the same information, just presented in a different way. We'll click Mark Completed, and then task 5 asks us to go ahead and modify the chart so that on the profits worksheet so that the legend appears on top. Now there are a few ways to do this. With this chart still selected, I could go over here to add chart elements and go to legend and do that change here. I'm going to show you one other way. If you scroll up here, if you notice as I'm hovering that this appears, I'm going to click add, that little plus sign, and it gives me all of the same things that I just showed you over there. And we're going to click this arrow and we're going to click top, and notice it pushes that legend to the top. We'll click mark completed. We are in Excel multi-project 1. Currently we're working on project 4, network hardware. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and add a brand new worksheet named customers to the workbook. So that's pretty simple. This plus sign right here, if we go ahead and click that, it opens up a brand new sheet, and we need to edit the name. You can just double click here and notice that it highlights that text, and we'll go ahead and type in customers. Notice that I'm typing in a capital C here, and you can click enter and it sets that name there. We'll click mark completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and go to the wired networks table on this hardware tab, and pay attention because there's the wired and then they have the wireless networks here, and it tells us to remove all the duplicates in the wired. So I'm going to select the column headings as well as the data underneath. We're going to go to the data tab, and over here in the data tools we're going to click remove duplicates. Now over here we want to make sure we have my data has headers, and it's going to list out all the different things to look at. We're just going to go ahead and click OK, and notice it removes some of the entries in there. We'll click mark completed. Task 3 actually asks us to go ahead and in A1 on the hardware worksheet, we're going to go ahead and insert this image. So we're going to go to the insert tab, we're going to go to pictures, and from here we're in the documents. We'll click that, my documents, and we're going to go ahead and click GMetrix templates, and it tells us the network typology. It's a PNG file. We'll go ahead and double click there. Notice it went ahead and placed that there for us in A1. We'll click mark completed. Task 4 asks us to go ahead and rotate the text wired networks and wireless at the same time. You could do it individually, or if you select the first cell, hold the control key, and then select the wireless network, you'll have 2 cells selected at the same time. And then from here we're on the home tab alignment group, and we're going to click this and click angle clockwise. Click mark completed. And task 5 asks us to go ahead and sort the data in the wired networks and sort by product ID, smallest to largest. So we're going to go ahead and select the column headings and all the data in there. And we're going to go to, there's multiple ways to do this. You could right click, but I'm going to go to the data tab, and I'm going to click sort here in the sort and filter. And it tells us product ID, and it says smallest to largest. Make sure it says that here. And the only reason I see this is because I also selected the column headings when I selected my data before I sorted. So with that selected, we'll click OK, and notice it goes ahead and it sorts the product ID here. We'll click mark completed. We are in Excel multi-project 1. Currently we're on the bike sales project, which is project 5. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and configure on the Q1 sales worksheet, configure rows 1 through 3 to remain visible as you scroll vertically. So this can give people fits sometimes, but what we need to do is select row 4 here, and we're going to go to the View tab and click Freeze Panes. Now because we selected row 4, everything above row 4 will always be visible as we scroll down. So we'll go ahead and click Freeze Panes, and notice that as I scroll up and down, those 3 stay visible no matter what. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and add the subject equipment draft to the document properties. So we'll click File so that we can access the backstage view. And if you don't see what you're looking for here, click Show All Properties. And now we have subject. And right over here to the right, we'll go ahead and type that. Make sure you capitalize the words. And students have a tendency of adding a space after the last word for some reason. You want to make sure you don't do that because it will mark you wrong. Click Mark Completed. Task 3 asks us to configure Excel so that it always prints the cell range A1 to F17 on the Q1 sales worksheet. So let's exit the backstage view. And this, it's almost tricky. You want to select over here in the right hand corner so that you select the cell, because if not, you'll select the picture. So we're going to put our cursor in that very corner, and then we're going to click and drag down to F17. And with that selected, we're going to go to page layout, and we're going to click the print area here in the page setup and click set print area. We'll click mark completed. Task 4 asks us to stay on the Q1 sales worksheet and insert a function in B19. So in B19, the function is going to be the sum function. So we're going to go ahead and do the insert function button here. And sum is already here, but if it's not there, you just can type it in up here, click go, and click OK. From here, it's going to ask us to select our range of numbers, and it tells us it's the total. So I'm going to select everything in that total row, numbers wise, and click OK. And notice it sums it up here for us. We'll click mark completed. And task 5. People have an issue with this function. It's called concatenate, but let's go ahead and do it. A reason I tell you to never hanky in any formulas is for formulas just like this. So we're going to go ahead and click the insert function with our cursor here in B4. And concatenate is here, but we're going to go ahead and, if you're not sure, just type it in to find it. And it pulls up all those formulas that are similar. We'll click OK. Now it's asking us to go ahead and select our first range of text. Now our first range of text is actually on the catalog. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And what it gives us an example of how it should look. We have a lot of numbers here. What it wants us to do is select the description first. So for this one, we'll click this cell, and it populates that information. Now I'm going to hit tab, or you can click in text too. And what it wants us to do here is select space, type the space, dash space, just like that. And you can click text 3 or click tab. And we need to go back to the catalog and click hardtail. And we're going to click OK. And it populated the rest of the table for us, which is a great function in Excel. But notice that it took that information and brought it down for us. We'll go ahead and click mark completed. And if you look in this formula before we click grade, notice the quotation marks here around this text. If you were trying to hand key in this formula, you probably would not have got that correct. So make sure you use the function builder. We are working on Excel Multi-Project 1 in GMetrix. Currently we're on Project 6 called Rock Crawling. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and enable the total row on the table located on the Quarter 1 worksheet. So to do that, we need to go ahead and put our cursor inside of this table. And anytime you select a table, you get special tabs at the top, Table Tools Design. And from here, it's very simple. We're in the Table Styles options, and we just need to check Total Row. And notice it went ahead and it put that there for us. We'll click Mark Completed. It then asks us on the Quarter 1 worksheet to go and add in the maximum row, which is right here, for column B, the greatest number of successful attempts for the month of January. So easy to do. We're going to go ahead and put our cursor here, and we're going to insert a function. So we'll click the Insert Function button. And we're going to go ahead and click max, because that's the formula we need to do. Click go, and we'll double click here or click OK. And it asks us to go ahead and select the range. If you just leave it at its default, you're going to get the wrong return. So we just want to select these, and we'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 asks us to go ahead and select the data trail January, February, March, and all of the data. It tells us very carefully not to select either the total rows or columns. And from here, we're going to go ahead and insert a 3D clustered column chart. So we're going to go to the Insert tab, and this is our columns here. And we're going to select 3D cluster column. If you're not sure, hover. It will always tell you what it is. And we'll click OK, or just select that. We didn't click OK. And then it tells us to position the chart to the right of the data on the table. We'll go ahead and do that. Click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to go to the Quarter 2 worksheet, so we'll go ahead and do that. And it's going to tell us to create a table from the data A9 through E14. So we'll go ahead and select that data. And there's multiple ways you can do this. You could first make this a chart, make this a table, but or you could just from the Home tab go to Format as a Table, because it has us applying a style to it, and it tells us Table Style Medium 18, and we can do that. We have the medium group here, and we're not sure, so we'll hover. That's too much, so Table Style Medium 18. If you're not sure, again, hover so it'll tell you which table style you're applying. And then we've already selected the headers, but that's what it wants us to do. We'll click Mark Completed, and Task 5 asks us to go ahead and change this chart over here on the right and apply the Style 3. Because we have the chart selected, we have special tabs at the top, Chart Tools, Design, and from here, this is your chart styles. We'll select Style 3, click Mark Completed. We are working on Excel multi-project number 1 in GMetrix. Currently, we're on project 7 called Fusion Tomo. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and go to the Employee Bonuses tab, and it's going to have us copy the formula in H4 all the way down to the bottom. So we'll select that cell, and we're down here. You see that green little square. We're going to put our cursor right on top so we get the black cross, and then from there we can just click and drag down. It goes ahead and populates that formula all the way through. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and go to G4, and this is not easy what we're about to do. This is probably the hardest thing in this entire multi-project. We're going to go ahead and insert a formula. Specifically, it doesn't tell us, but we're going to add the sum if formula. So with our cursor selected, we're going to go ahead and click Insert Function, and we'll type up here sum if, click Go, and it gives us all of those. Make sure you select sum if. We'll double click. Our range is going to be B4 to D4, and because the parts, accessories, and services. Our criteria is anything that's greater than 100,000. And again, we're going B4 to D4. Now, the reason we selected greater than 100,000 is because this is our quarterly goal down here, and I'm messing up this formula, but I wanted you to see the quarterly goal. And then we're going to click OK. Now we're not done. We also need to go ahead and, if it exceeds that, we want to multiply it by the quarterly bonus rate at 2%. So what we need to do is to go back. We're still in G4, and we're going to go to the formula bar up here, and we're going to go ahead and actually type this time. We're going to go ahead and do the multiply, and then we're going to click a $sign, B $17. If you look down here, it highlights that cell. We'll go ahead and click enter. Now you might be saying, Mr. Sinclair, why did you have me put in $signs before the B and the 17? And the reason is this is what we want to be an absolute reference, and what that does is it locks the cell so that cell, no matter where I drag it, will always reference this cell. If I did not put those $signs in, when I clicked and dragged down, it would look to the next cell when I dragged it to G5 and then keep going down. Well, there's no data here, which will mess it up, and this is the only number we wanted to look at. So it's a lot there. That's probably the hardest thing in this entire multi-project, but we'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 asks us to stay on the Employee Bonuses worksheet and remove the row containing the salesperson Alan. Very easy to do. We'll go ahead and select 11. And to select that entire row, we'll right click and just click delete, and it goes ahead and removes that. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to go ahead and, still on the Employee Bonuses worksheet, disable the headings in the rates table. So we'll go ahead and click our cursor inside this table to bring up the Tables Tools design. And from here, we're just going to uncheck the header row to make that disappear. We'll click Mark Completed. And Task 5 asks us to go to F4 on the parts. So we're changing worksheets here, and we're in F4, and it asks us to insert a line that graphs the trend of sales from January through March. So with F4 selected, we're going to click Insert, and we're going to go to the spark lines here, and we're going to click Line, and it asks us to select our range. So we just want January, February, and March. Make sure not to select the totals, and we'll click OK. Click Mark Completed.